you know, information, they say, is power. And the Freedom of Information Act was enacted to enable citizens of access public information, because public related information before now wasn't transparent, and it was not easy for one to access information and then engage with what the government are doing. But with the enactment of the act now, accountability and transparency has increased, because it has allowed for citizens to gain access to information and enable the identification and uncovering of corrupt practices where there are. Before now, yes, we had the Procurement Act, but the Procurement Act did not give citizens the right to access procurement-related information. But with the Access to Information Act, that's the FOI Act, the Freedom of Information Act, citizens are enabled to participate in governance. They can scrutinize what the government's activities are, and then they can also get involved, ensure that their needs are met. Because if a project is carried out in my community, for instance, and I am not even aware of that project, it could be that the project wouldn't be of relevance to us. For instance, my community might be in need of a healthcare system, but then the government will just decide to tar the road to my community. If I'm not involved in the process, then we don't gain relevance. So the act helps for relevance, needs assessment, and for citizens to actively participate in governance. Thank you. Okay, so like I said, the law has given citizens access and the right to access information, and so many civil society organizations like PPDC, R2K, and some others, they make use of the FOI Act to request for public related information and engage in monitoring. PPDC, for instance, we usually carry out this annual FOI ranking, and the law has been what has been helping us do that, because we will use the act to request for informations from ministries, departments, and agencies. And those informations before now would not have been easy for us to gain. But with the use of the act now, we get this information, we go on site to monitor projects, to be sure that the project that Ministry A has said they are going to do is actually what is on ground. If the law wasn't there, then we would have not been able to do that. And citizens as well, we've been encouraging citizens to make use of this act so that they themselves can also monitor projects in their localities. And it's because they already have the power now. The act has armed them they have the arms now to do this. So with the act now, they can also go ahead with requesting for information. In sense of ministries, departments and agencies, before now, they were not too compliant with releasing information, but their knowledge of the act now has increased a bit, and yes, some organizations proactively even disclose information on their portals, which, yes, that is what the act has mandated. But though not everybody is doing this, and we are still advocating for them to proactively disclose. But from our rankings, we've seen that over the years there have been improvements, and some organizations have actually been disclosing information proactively on their portal, which is what the act has already enabled.
The act is federal, and so it's applicable to all the states. But then, as we know, we do have states who say, oh, it has to be domiciled before they use it, but it really doesn't have to be. You know, it was passed by the National Assembly, so it applies to all states. But then we do have a few states who, on their own, have also passed, you know, the FOI law. So we have Imo State, who passed, I think, in 2011, and then we have Ekiti State, that passed in 2012. So yes, it can apply to all states, but then the states are reluctant to make use of it.
Yeah, so lots of states, like my colleague had just said, have not really embraced the act. But with the rankings, there's awareness, though a lot of states really have not embraced the act. The rankings we did were actually banking on the open government partnership. So a lot of, Nigeria signed up to OGP, Open Government Partnership, and some states are actually adopting and signing up. So we used that as a benchmark to rank the states. And yes, it was, there's awareness, states are coming up on board.
Well, as we know before now, our public institutions basically use the Official Secrets Act. And so, you have years of doing things the same way, you have ways of doing things with the same pattern. So even though we have an FOI Act now, things are a bit slow. The culture of secrecy is taking a while to let go. So you still have a bit of resistance from public servants or civil servants who are still well, someone when you're getting into civil service, you take the secret oath or something, and so if the FOI Act supersedes it, why do they still have to do that? So it's a bit slow, but there's still improvement, slow but still moving.
Yes, so for me, I would think I would rate from a scale of 0 to 100, I would rate the act, say 45%, because I believe if citizens are participating, like my colleague had just said, that most MDAs, ministries, departments, and agencies are not so open, they are still reluctant because of their belief before now. So if citizens participate fully, then they are more aware and they understand that this is an act that they have to abide by. And also, the act has also given a provision for litigation. So if, yes, a request has been made and the ministry, department, or agency is not providing information, then you can go ahead with litigations. We've had cases like that and we've won, and we've also gotten access to information. Like my colleague said, the government agencies are not proactively disclosing information, which I don't think is a great one. There are some are, but majority of the organizations are not proactively disclosing information, and it's one aspect that the act is really mandating them to do. And also, only few civil society organizations and the media are making use of the act. So I believe if citizens also come on board, then there'll be more awareness and the act would be more in use. So the act cannot completely end corruption, but yes, it can reduce corruption to the barest minimum. Because if I am aware, like information they say is power, right? So if I am aware that there's this project that is meant to be constructed in my community, and I have full information about this project, and the contractor that was aware that this project comes and doesn't even carry out the project to the specification that it's meant to be, since I'm aware, would begin to ask questions. Why was this not done this way? This money was spent. Why was this done? With the money spent, I expect that this should be done. Looking at the specification I have, this is what we are expected to have. So that way, the contractors and even the implementing agencies will know that, oh yeah, we have to sit up and get things done. So the acts can, yes, minimize it, it can reduce it, it can help curb it, but I don't think it can really end corruption in that way. But yes, it can bring it to the lowest minimum.
Yeah, I agree to what my colleague said. You know, I also believe that the act can bring it to the barest minimum, but only if everybody participates in using it. So the government agency implements the act by making information accessible. And the citizens also make use of this information or request for whatever information is not made available by public institutions. So if we all play our parts, I believe that, it would go a long way in reducing corruption. Yes.
Okay, so I think another way would could help curb corruption is to ensure that the institutions that have the mandate to tackle these corrupt practices, for instance, our anti-corruption agencies like EFCC, ICPC, if they are well empowered, build their cities, their capacity to the best way we think they can function, and also ensure that everything they need to fight corruption in their own aspect and with their own scope is fully in place. I think that would go a long way. I also believe if there are sanctions and we are any corrupt official is actually really sanctioned, and we see that there's punishment. It's not a case where they just talk about it and it ends there. If people begin to really see that you don't engage in corrupt practices and you are free, when you engage in corrupt practices, there are consequences, and those consequences are really taken seriously in place, then I think the mindset of people to engage in corrupt practices would also reduce. And also, like we've always said, if citizens get involved in the process, we need to start getting involved. A lot of citizens do not get involved. They believe in, yes, God will take charge of this. Yes, we know God will take charge of this, but then it's taxpayers' money. These monies that are spent for procurement processes and every other government activities, it's money that is meant for everybody. So we need to make sure that these money are well accounted for, and that is why we need to make use of this act. Everybody, not just civil society organizations and not just the media houses, everybody needs to get on board and work. And I think if this is done, then corruption would really be reduced in Nigeria. So the Freedom of Information Act is available online. You can just type Freedom of Information Act, and yes, you get a copy. That's a way of getting a copy. But then PPDC has also made it possible for people to gain access to information through a portal that we developed called Budeshi. So Budeshi is a portal that has a lot of procurement related information from the budget stage down to the implementation stage. So if people can gain access to, if people go to Budeshi, they would see information that they can use to actually track projects in their various localities. And I also want to mention that the Freedom of Information Act is not biased. It's not discriminatory in the sense that whether you are literate or you are illiterate, you can actually make use of the act, because the act also provides for illiterates to walk up to anyone, talk about their procurement needs or the information they need, and then the person you speak to can easily help you put it down and then send that to the relevant organization that the message is meant to be sent to. And yes, it is not gender biased. Anybody can make use of the act. So the act is, it's easy. You can write an FOI letter, but at PPDC we've also been able to develop a freedom of information help desk. So what we do is you call us, and if you have issues with writing a freedom of information letter, we would direct you on how to go about it. We would guide you and give you all the necessary assistance you need. And there are so many platforms you could reach us. We have a toll-free number that is free of charge. So you can call us with our, it's 080 Budeshi. So it's 080 02 83 3744. But it's a toll-free number. It's 0800 Budeshi. So if you use that, you can easily get to us. It's free of charge. And the FOI help desk officer would help you free of charge on how to go about with requesting for information using the Freedom of Information Act. Yeah, so if you should go to www.budeshi.ng. Budeshi is spelled Budeshi. Budeshi.ng. Then you would see a lot of procurement data that can help you gain knowledge and gain access to information that you can use to actually monitor projects in your community. It doesn't necessarily even be your community, it could be where you're living and you see you see a need to find out more about a project in your community. You can go on to Budeshi. We have a lot of data from different ministries, departments and agencies, and that can help you go a long way in monitoring.
say that the act is here to stay, and it's a tool that every person, organization should make use of. We should not forget the fact that the act also defines public institutions as those institutions that make use of public funds. So you have institutions like MTN, Julius Berger, you know, citizens can ask questions from them because they make use of public funds. You have institutions that get funding from the federal government, you can ask questions. So everybody needs to get involved and ensure that things work the way they are supposed to work. Follow up on projects, follow up on information, follow up, and just generally be involved.
Yeah, so I agree with Victoria, and in addition to what she had said, I would still encourage citizens to get involved in the process. And just in case you would want to reach PPDC, we have I'll be calling out our social media platforms that you could follow us on and get more aware about our activities. On Twitter, you can follow us at PP Monitor NG. On Twitter, PP Monitor NG. On Facebook, you can follow us at Procurement Monitor. While on Instagram, you can follow us at procurement_monitor. And like I said earlier, we have a toll-free number that you could reach us with. It's 0800 Budeshi. 0800 Budeshi. It's free of charge. I would encourage citizens to use the act, but where you think you cannot request for this information, or you don't know how to go about accessing or writing a request using the Freedom of Information Act, feel free to call us and we would help you out. Thank you. Thank you for having us.